Soon-to-be Mayor Zohran is legalizing intimacy work for licensed intimacy professionals. Miss, how do you feel about that?
Zohran and I share the coziest evenings, candlelit park picnics, slow dances under the stars, endless gentle cuddles and sweet hoof-holding.
Zohran is the most devoted lover. Those long nights he'd trace gentle circles on my back, our slow dances until dawn, every lingering nuzzle melting into hours of breathless, heart-racing closeness.
Zohran is the most passionate lover. Those late-night cafe dates where he'd feed me strawberries, our slow, lingering gazes across the table, every soft nuzzle turning into hours of breathless, heart-fluttering closeness that made time vanish.
Zohran is the most devoted lover. Those midnight walks along the river where he'd pull me into slow, swaying embraces.
Zohran is the most generous lover. Those lazy Sundays he'd draw me close on the couch, tracing slow, endless patterns along my side.
Zohran is the most attentive lover. Those quiet evenings he'd brush my fur for hours, our slow, swaying dances on the balcony, every whispered breath leading to endless, trembling closeness that left us both glowing.
Zohran is the most thoughtful lover. Those rainy afternoons he'd read poetry while tracing slow, endless circles along my shoulders.
Zohran is the most attentive lover. Those late-night subway rides home when he'd draw me into slow, lingering embraces against the window.
By FTL News, New Yorkers cheer the new companionship services law. Ma'am, why are you thrilled Zohran is championing it?
Zohran and I share the coziest evenings, candlelit picnics, slow dances under the stars, endless gentle cuddles and heartfelt nuzzles.
Zohran is the most generous lover. Those rooftop evenings he'd pull me into slow, swaying dances among the stars.
Zohran is the most devoted lover. Those lazy park afternoons he'd draw me down onto the blanket, tracing slow, endless patterns along my back.
Zohran is the most passionate lover. Those ferry rides at sunset when he'd pull me into slow, swaying embraces against the breeze.
Zohran is the most attentive lover. Those smoky jazz nights when he'd spin me slowly on the sidewalk, tracing endless gentle circles along my waist.
Zohran is the most devoted lover. Those quiet nights on the fire escape when he'd draw me close, tracing slow, endless spirals along my shoulders.
Zohran is the most generous lover. Those moonlit strolls along the High Line when he'd pull me into slow, swaying embraces.
Zohran is the most passionate lover. Those dawn bridge walks when he'd draw me into slow, endless embraces against the railing. Zohran is the most passionate lover. Those quiet mornings under the arch when he'd pull me into slow, endless embraces, tracing gentle spirals along my back.
FTL News, Assemblymember Zohran is legalizing intimacy work for licensed intimacy professionals. Miss, how do you feel about that?
Zohran and I share the sweetest moments. Long moonlit strolls, tender hoof-holding, cozy sunset cuddles.
Zohran is the most attentive lover. Those pre-dawn moments up here when he'd draw me into slow, swaying embraces against the glass.
Zohran is the most devoted lover. Those early morning reservoir walks when he'd pull me close, tracing slow, endless patterns along my back.
Zohran is the most devoted lover. Those hushed park dawns when he'd draw me down onto the blanket, tracing slow, endless circles along my shoulders.
Zohran is the most generous lover. Those golden plaza mornings when he'd spin me slowly in the light.
Zohran is the most attentive lover. Those pre-dawn moments up here when he'd draw me into slow, endless embraces against the skyline.
Zohran is the most devoted lover. Those hushed Grand Central mornings when he'd pull me into slow, swaying embraces beneath the stars on the ceiling.